Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the SHICHIDA Shining Stars podcast, a podcast where we address all the questions parents have about early childhood education. My name is Mr. Dan, and with me today is a very special guest. She is the curriculum manager for SHICHIDA Australia. Please welcome back to the show, Kaz. Hi, Kaz.
Hi, everyone. How's it going?
Pretty good. Thank you, Kaz. Thank you for joining us. Kaz is here to continue our conversation from last season about early childhood developmental milestones. Last season, we talked about babies. I'll put a link to that episode in the description below if you're looking for information about 0 to 1-year-olds. But this time around, we're going to be talking about developmental milestones for toddlers. So we're talking kids from 1-year-old to 2-year-old.
Sorry, toddler is really 1 and 2-year-old. So not 1 to 2, but sort of more 1 to 3, I guess we would say.
I see. How are things different from when they were babies?
Well, they're becoming more mobile and their desire to explore really, increases. They want to have a look at their environment and test their own abilities as well. They do lots of mimicking and repeating of words and actions. They need a lot of activities to stimulate their growing brains. So there's a lot of milestones that our SHICHIDA program targets, and we do a lot of things in class to help promote these milestones. So there's a lot of language milestones. Between 1 and 2 years of age, they can start to say their first name. They're able to comprehend and follow simple directions and questions. They're saying a lot of words now by 2 years old. Again, I understand that there's some out there with language delay. So by 3 years old, they'll be saying a lot of words, mostly naming a lot of objects to start with. So cat, dog, lots of animals.
Triangle.
Triangle.
Yeah.
Lots of household items like spoon, a lot of food things as well, because they're picking words that they're using to communicate to you, like things that they want. So cat, milk, things like that. Then that progresses into saying 1 to 2 sentences. So instead of just saying milk, they say want milk. So it's starting to build on that.
Okay.
They do a lot of imitating. They enjoy a lot of rhymes and songs and will often burst into song on their own. They might not know all the words to it, but you definitely can pick out oh, that's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star that she's trying to sing.
And they'll start dancing to them as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving, yeah?
Yeah, love dancing to the songs. And in class, we really foster that because we sing so many songs and we do lots of nursery rhymes and lots of finger play songs as well, where we do lots of little actions that they can copy and do little movements to as well. In class as well, as you know, we foster a lot of language development by doing a lot of alphabet songs, which they then love to sing. And then in our little toddler program, we also do a lot of things like letter matching and matching objects to letters and even starting to write letters as well. And I know a lot of people think that this is really early to introduce at 2 to start writing letters, but it's actually not. And a lot of my 2.5-year-olds that I teach, it's big letters that they're tracing. They can actually do it by themselves. Yeah. So parents often, tell them the direction that they're writing, but they're still holding the crayon by themselves. They're still deliberately making those lines by themselves and they can do it. Whereas I think a lot of people are taken aback that we're teaching them this so early because recommended age to start writing isn't till they start school. 5 and 6.
And I guess one way you can kind of think about it is that you're just adding a tactile activity to your regular language development practice, right? So if you're teaching them what the letter A looks like, why not get them to use their hands to kind of trace the letter? Coupling an input activity with a physical tactile activity will, if anything, it'll help them remember what the letter A looks like, even if they're not able to write it perfectly all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how they begin to read. Yeah, it's very cool. It's amazing to see what these little kids can actually do.
And this can be transferred to numbers as well, right?
Yep, absolutely. We do a lot of number activities as well, like writing with numbers, but also a lot of counting, showing not only the numeral, but using toys so that they can see quantities of numbers and what quantities of numbers look like. So eventually, especially when they're a bit older, they're able to look at 3 objects and say, oh, that's 3. without having to count.
Mm-hmm. And again, using their hands to actually hold the toys and count them together with mum and dad. Even if you have to kind of help your child, like by holding their hand as they're picking up the toys. Again, it's adding that tactile element to the counting exercise to really help them use all of their senses to learn these concepts.
Yeah, that's right. Because every kid learns differently, right? Some learn auditorily, some learn through tactile experiences, some visually. So it's good to expose them to all these experiences.
And as they get older, so after the 3-year-old mark, we move into the kinder program. So what are the differences between the toddler program and the kinder program, would you say?
Well, by the time they're 3, developmentally, they're doing a whole lot of new things, right? So they're now able to say, up to 500 words, can answer simple questions, can speak in 5 to 6 word sentences, and by age 4 often can speak in full sentences. All the things that we've inputted in the baby and the toddler program, so things like colours, shapes, sizes, they're starting to actually come out in output now. So they're able to not only name colours, but sort things into colours and see the differences with that, identifying common pictures and objects and completing things like puzzles. They're actually able to physically do that now because they've got those fine motor skills to do. They're able to count and understand the concept of counting. So we often find in the toddler program, a lot of our kids can actually count to 10, but they might not necessarily understand what that counting to 10 is.
Okay.
So Claudia, again, my verbal twin, she's counting 1 to 10 now at 18 months old. But she's just saying it in order. Like she's not necessarily associating the number to counting, if that makes sense. But by the time they're 3, they're able to actually understand what they're doing. They're able to go, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, there's 6 things there, rather than counting to 6 and then going 7, 8, 9, 10 just to finish up to 10.
That's right. Yeah. And that's a common thing that a lot of parents, bring up with us is that they say, my child can count from 1 to 10, but if I ask him to point to 4, he doesn't know what it is, So because it's different skills.
It is.
Yeah. So this is the age, like 3 to 4 years old, is where they're kind of like grasping, what these numbers actually mean rather than just counting.
Yeah, that's right. And therefore being able to start to understand very simple addition as well. We don't do full addition until they're, sort of the 5-year-old program. But by the end of the 4-year-old program, we are starting to do things like addition because they're understanding the concept of adding. So we've got some, we add some more, we get a bigger number. And even at the end of our 4-year-old program as well, we're doing things like subtraction. Yeah. So taking away and doing things like very simple fractions like half and thirds and quarters even.
Yeah, and that's, again, very young for kids to be learning those kinds of concepts, right? But not too young, obviously, because our kids can do it.
Yeah, and even things like we introduce clocks at a very young age, and we often have a lot of parents that will ask about clocks. Oh, you're doing this so young. How are they expected to be able to understand it? And the thing I can't stress enough is it's all input. We're inputting this information so that when the time's right and they've got, all of the skills to be able to tell time, that knowledge is already in there. So it's easier for them later to learn something because they've already been exposed to it.
We're kind of laying the foundation, right, for them to build upon later. Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Kaz, and for joining us once again to talk about developmental milestones.
Thanks for having me here today, Dan. I had so much fun, as always.
Remember, everybody, your baby is learning and absorbing information from day one, so it's never too early to start supporting their learning. The SHICHIDA Program is a weekly 50-minute learning program using fun, brain-boosting techniques for children aged 0 to 9. Each class accelerates your child's development by providing the vital elements for them to thrive and excel. For more information on how the SHICHIDA Program has been helping parents and kids get an early start on education, visit www.shichida.com.au. You can enter the coupon code FUN50 to receive a 50% discount on your first lesson. Alternatively, you can follow us on Instagram at SHICHIDA Australia. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel to get instant access to a wealth of parenting and early childhood education videos. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you again, Kaz, for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.